The sun hung low over Ouagadougou, casting a golden hue across a stadium filled with 100,000 souls, their voices a vibrant hum of anticipation. It was Burkina Faso's Independence Day, a celebration of freedom hard-won, yet incomplete. Waves waved, children laughed, and the air buzzed with the rhythm of balafon music. At the center of the stage stood President Ibrahim Traoré, a man whose quiet strength seemed to anchor the chaos around him. His simple suit, devoid of ostentation, contrasted with the festive energy. He stepped to the microphone, his gaze sweeping the crowd, and asked a question that sliced through the noise like a blade. How many of you know the real pre-colonial name of your village? The stadium fell silent, a sea of faces caught off guard. Hands rose hesitantly, only a few scattered like stars in a daylight sky. Traoré set the microphone down, stepped forward, and stood still for a full minute. The silence was heavy, a mirror reflecting a nation's forgotten roots. Then his voice steady but resonant, he continued. Today we fight not just for political independence, but for our cultural soul. The crowd, initially puzzled, leaned in, their confusion giving way to curiosity. This was no ordinary speech, no parade of familiar rhetoric. Traoré's words carried a weight that demanded attention. We live in places named by others. Saint-Michel, Petit Paris, Nouvelle Marseille. These are not our names. They are scars of occupation. Reminders that those who claimed our hills, our rivers, our villages believed they owned our very identity. The stadium was a hush, the weight of history settling over the crowd. Elders nodded, their eyes distant with memory, while younger faces flickered with revelation. Many had never questioned the French names dotting their homeland, names that felt as familiar as the dust under their feet, yet as foreign as the colonizers who imposed them. Traoré's voice grew stronger, each word a chisel carving truth from silence forever. When they renamed our villages, they didn't just mark maps. They tried to erase our history, to sever us from our ancestors, to make us forget who we were before they came. He paused, his eyes meeting those of a young woman in the front row, her expression shifting from curiosity to resolve. Today, on this anniversary of our freedom, I propose a new fight. To reclaim our original village names, to restore our geographic memory, to heal a wound left unaddressed for too long. A stunned silence gripped the stadium. Then a ripple of applause grew into a thunderous wave. People stood, some embracing, others wiping tears as if a long-buried pain had been named. This was no mere policy. It was a call to the soul of a nation. Traoré raised a hand, quieting the crowd. This will not be a decree from above. It will be a journey of remembering led by you, our communities, our elders, our oral traditions. Each village will decide its true name, whether it's the one our ancestors spoke, or a new one that reflects who we are. The crowd roared again, a sound of pride and defiance, as if the act of naming could reclaim not just places but a people. The initiative, dubbed Reclaiming Our Words, was born in that moment, though no one, not even Traoré, could have foreseen its ripple across time and borders. 2 weeks later, in the village of Saint-Laurent, a community gathered beneath the sprawling branches of a baobab tree, its gnarled roots a testament to centuries endured. The village chief, Moussa Ouedraogo, 87 years old, sat on a wooden stool, his weathered hands clasped tightly. Around him were elders, farmers, mothers, and children, their faces a mix of hope and skepticism. A young government representative, Aminata Dio, stood nervously before them, her voice trembling slightly. President Traoré asks you to search your memories, to speak with your elders, to uncover the names your village held before the French arrived. The government will support your research, and your chosen name will be etched on every map and document. Chief Ouedraogo listened, his eyes distant. I was born here, as was my father and his father before him. All my life, this has been Saint-Laurent. I know it's not ours, but the true name. He shook his head, voice heavy with regret. That was lost with my grandfather's generation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a shared ache for a past stolen. Then, from the edge of the gathering, a frail voice cut through. I'm not entirely lost, Chief Ouedraogo. The crowd parted to reveal Fatimata Sawadogo, over a century old, her back bent, leaning on a cane. Her presence was rare, her words rarer still. My grandmother told me stories, she said, her voice steady despite her age. Before the white men came, this place was Kumugo, the hill where the wild honey is found, a reverent silence fell. Chief Wedreago's eyes widened. "The Kumugo," he whispered, as if tasting the word for the first time in decades. "Yes, my father spoke that name once, when I was a boy." The crowd exhaled a collective breath of rediscovery, as if the village itself had stirred awake. Across Burkina Faso, similar scenes unfolded. In villages like Petit Paris and Saint Michel, elders gathered under trees or in dusty courtyards, piecing together fragments of oral history. In some communities, names had survived in songs or stories whispered despite colonial decrees. In others, like Saint Laurent, they lingered only in the fading memories of the oldest residents. The process was not seamless. In urban areas, colonial names had rooted deeply, and some questioned the need for change. "Why fix what works?" A shopkeeper in Ouagadougou muttered, his ledger still bearing the name Nouvelle Marseille. In rural hamlets, debates sparked over conflicting memories. Different elders recalled different names, each claiming authenticity. Yet, these challenges only deepened the journey, forcing communities to confront their past with honesty. In the capital, Traoré received daily reports in his modest office, a map of Burkina Faso pinned to the wall, marked with villages awakening to their true names. One evening, his cultural advisor, Professor Hamadou Barry, arrived, his face alight with excitement. "Mr. President, this is more than names. Villages are reviving lost songs, dances, even farming methods. It's a cultural renaissance." Traoré nodded, unsurprised. "Names are the doorway, Professor. When we question what was imposed, we begin to question everything. This is about seeing ourselves anew." 3 months later, the village of Saint Laurent held its first renaming ceremony, now reborn as Kumugo. Traoré attended, standing quietly as Chief Wedreago, tears streaming down his face, unveiled a new sign at the village entrance. "We do not adopt a new name," the chief declared, his voice breaking. "We return to our true name. For too long, we were like a person with amnesia, unable to recall who we are. Today, we remember." The ceremony was alive with music. Balafons and drums that hadn't sounded in decades, joined by dances once nearly forgotten. Villagers shared honey from the hills that gave Kumugo its name, a sweet symbol of their reclaimed identity. Children laughed, weaving through the crowd, their faces bright with pride. Traoré watched, his heart heavy with the weight of what this moment meant. The news spread like wildfire, not just in Burkina Faso but beyond. International media, initially skeptical, began to report on the initiative. Images of elders weeping as they heard their village's true name, of youth learning songs tied to their land, resonated globally. Within 6 months, over 200 villages had reclaimed their names or chosen new ones in indigenous languages, each reflecting their unique spirit. Banrima, the place where the people gathered in freedom. Tindara, the valley of the steadfast. The movement was no longer just about maps. It was about a nation rediscovering its pulse. Opposition emerged as expected. French diplomats, citing a shared history, called the initiative divisive, warning of strained relations. Traoré faced them at a press conference, his voice calm but unyielding. Would Paris accept being renamed New Ouagadougou? Would the same be labeled in our tongue? This is not erasure, it's correction, a reclaiming of what was stolen. Within Burkina Faso, practical concerns arose. Business owners worried about mail delivery, tourism, and paperwork. Traoré's government responded with a transition period, recognizing both old and new names temporarily, and launched a global campaign to update maps and databases. These challenges, though, only deepened the initiative's impact, forcing communities to grapple with the cost of forgetting and the power of remembering. A year in, UNESCO recognized Reclaiming Our Words as a model for cultural heritage preservation, praising its community-driven approach. Mali, Niger, and Senegal expressed interest in similar programs, and the initiative's global spotlight grew. In Kumugo, the transformation extended beyond the signpost. Youth began recording elder stories, creating digital archives of oral histories. Traditional farming methods, once abandoned, were revived alongside modern techniques, yielding surprising results. Most strikingly, young people like Salif Wedreago, the chief's grandson, returned from urban jobs to build cultural centers. When I heard Kumugo's name, Salif told a filmmaker, it wasn't just a place anymore. It was a history, a story I needed to be part of. 2 years after the speech, Traoré convened a National Cultural Congress, a gathering of village leaders, scholars, and artists from across Africa. The statistics were staggering. 70% of Burkina Faso's villages had reclaimed or chosen new names. But the stories were what mattered most. Professor Fatou Sow, a Senegalese anthropologist, presented research showing stronger community bonds, renewed youth interest in traditions, and a deeper connection to history. This is not just cartographic, she said. It's spiritual healing, addressing a colonial wound left untreated. When Traoré took the stage, the room rose in a minutes-long ovation. He spoke humbly. This belongs to the grandmothers who remembered, the youth who embraced their roots, the communities brave enough to name themselves. He paused, his eyes sweeping the crowd. Decolonization isn't a moment. It's a process in our economies, our schools, our minds, and yes, our maps. The Congress buzzed with stories. A village reviving a forgotten harvest festival, a school teaching children the meaning behind their new name, a musician blending balafon with hip-hop to tell the story of Tindara. 3 years later, Traoré visited a primary school in Banima, a village once called St. Michichel. Children, aged 7 to 12, presented their community's history, proudly explaining that Banima meant at the place where the people gathered in freedom. A 10-year-old girl, Asata, approached him after, her eyes wide with curiosity. Mr. President, why did the French rename our villages? Didn't they know we had names? Traoré knelt to her level, choosing his words carefully. They knew, Asata. But to control someone, you often start by renaming them. Names have power. Reclaiming them means we define ourselves. Asata nodded, her small face serious. I'm glad we're Banima again. As Traoré left, he paused at the village's new sign, its words etched deeply. Banima, the place where the people gathered in freedom. We remember who we are. The addition, unscripted by any official decree, struck him like a quiet thunderbolt. This was the heart of the initiative. Not just names, but a people reclaiming their story. The movement grew beyond villages. Rivers, mountains, and forests, once stripped of their indigenous names, were reclaimed. Children born in this era saw their heritage not as relic but as living truth, weaving traditional knowledge into modern music, literature, and fashion. A young designer in Ouagadougou crafted dresses from traditional textiles, her patterns telling the story of Kumugo's hills. A rapper in Bobo Delasso fused balafon rhythms with lyrics about Banrima's freedom. The initiative, sparked by a single question, had become a cultural tide, lifting a nation and inspiring a continent. In Kumugo, Salif's Cultural Center hosted weekly gatherings, where elders shared stories and youth recorded them, their phones glowing in the firelight. In Banrima, Asata's school launched a project to map their village's history, each child tracing their family's roots to names long buried. Across Burkina Faso, communities that once saw themselves as fragmented found unity in their shared The pain of colonial erasure, once unspoken, was now a source of strength, a wound healing through collective memory. International scholars began studying, reclaiming our words as a landmark in decolonization. Mali launched a similar initiative, renaming villages with Songhai and Bambara names. Niger followed, unearthing Tuareg place names. Senegal's youth shared videos of their elders reciting pre-colonial stories, tagging them #Reclaim Our Words. The movement's global echo was undeniable. Yet for Traoré, its success lived in quieter moments. Fatimata Sawadogo's voice naming Kumugo, Chief Wedreago's tears at the ceremony, Asata's question under the Banrima sun. As he drove from the village, Traoré glanced back at the children waving, the elders watching from the shade. The sign stood proudly, a testament to a people no longer defined by others. Names were more than words. They were power, memory, sovereignty. Burkina Faso had begun to remember who it was, and in that act, it found the strength to shape who it would become.